Good morning. Hello, 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 hello. How is everybody doing today? So, hopefully everybody is having a fantastic morning. Let's say it's not about the size of your balls, it's what you do with them. Today is a conversation on scrying technique. And I gotta say, I love the size of my ball because it is enormous. It's 9 inches across, weighs 45 pounds. Fucking heavy. So, the thing about it is it isn't about the size unless you're doing something insane like I use it for. Like, for me, the 9 inch sphere, it's actually 9.8 inches, which represents the flow of gravity. So 1 inch is 1 meters per second squared. So when I've got it sitting on top of an array, use it to focus the sphere of the world, so it literally is conjuring the world in miniature. But you can otherwise use like the obsidian sphere or like the golden sheen obsidian. Like, you get to play with balls. But what your scrying intermediaries are made out of matters depending on what it is you're trying to do with it. So I love cracking myself out on coffee. It's fantastic. The thing is, you want to create a space in your mind when you're looking into something. You relax the back of your mind. You just kind of like drift there, and you lower yourself into a meditative state, so that way you're not focusing so much on the information of who you are and what you're trying to see, and you just open yourself up to seeing. And so when you can do that, you can relax your mind. And so when you can relax your mind, you can invite other energies in. So as you are doing things, say for example, like conjuring spirits, or calling on your familiar spirits or your guardian and totems or whatever it is, you can create an intermediary space. Now this can be done with a bowl of water too, in which that's one of my preferred methods, is using a bowl of water. So like when I was doing the rituals to enter Duat back in 2012, it was a bowl of water, spikenard essential oil, and a couple of drops of blood, so that way it would pay the gatekeeper and it would be the holy path into the other world. So you sit there and you've got your candle on the far side and the light reflecting on the water, and in the back of your mind you're just staring into the water but through it. So you're not attaching any special significance to the water or to the oil or to any of it. It's the energy that you're feeling, it's the things that you're seeing in the back of your mind's eye. Like in the path I was taught, we use silver, and we use the crystal sphere as a means to charge the silver. So we project our thoughts through this into the object that we're charging. So this acts as a focus point. So you can use this to charge your totems, you can use this to charge your spellcraft, you can use this to charge your ritual tools. So if you're going to build up power in a wand, put your wand on the other side of your crystal ball, so long as it's one of these, like the clear ones, and then you project your consciousness through it so you can see it, and it creates a thin line of energy. So as you create that thin line of energy, you can basically play with the molecular structure of whatever it is you're going to charge. The reason we use silver is because it's a square molecule and it rolls the energy around, so basically it acts as a great storage point, whereas things like gold and copper, rapid discharge, so it's going to be one and done. So it does matter the way that the molecules are shaped and things like that. But there's this really fantastic book out there. It's called Occult Chemistry. It was written in 1899 for the 1900 centennial. Like when 1900 came rolling around, they were doing psychic projections into the chemical structure of matter. So psychics were able to see the atomic bonds. They were able to see the atomic structure, the DNA structures. Before modern science had created it or had done the microscopic experiments. So they went in and did that. I believe it was P.D. Ouspensky. He wrote the Tertium Organum, which follows on Gurdjieff's work, as well as this kind of study where thought projection into, for the observation of subatomic principle, is a viable course of study. So if you want to get into more of the science of magic and using your sight as a means to which you understand the universe deeper, you can use things like crystal balls, you can use things like scrying techniques to look in at the deeper qualities and states of matter. Now, scrying spheres are different than crystal points. So crystal points will focus all the energy up at the apex, and then it'll project outwards or upwards, or depending on what face you're using. So each face of a crystal stores different amounts of energy. So you've got a crystal point, it's got 5 or 6 faces around it, and then the tip of the point is going to be another 6 faces. So you can 12 different things inside one crystal point. You can get a double terminated, like these bad boys. And then what you can do is, when you've got an array done, or when you've got a grid work done, you can stand them straight up using other points of crystals. So that way you've got the surrounding grid that you've set it in, and then you've got the energy that comes up on top of it. In the work that I do, it's not so much about the words that matter as much as it is the energy that flows. So 99% of the spells that I cast these days are nonverbal. Meaning, I don't need to use the words that I've written down in the grimoire that I share with students, or that I share publicly, as often as I just will the magic to happen. And that's something that comes with practice. The more you dig these trenches of energy inside yourself, the more rote you get with these energies, the easier it is to lift the energy out of what it is you're doing and why it is you're applying it. So you've got the physical ingredient, which are required for certain types of totemic work. If you're going to use oils, if you're going to use herbs, if you're going to use stones, bones, dirts, the whole nine, right? Your words help you pull the intangible. So thought is an intangible. Thought made word, expressed in a poetic way, means that you've thought about it, you've catalyzed it, you've created it in a form that allows you to focus it. So when you do the sacred chanting, or when you do the sacred mantra, and you're projecting your voice and the vibrations into whatever it is you're doing, that acts as a form of clearing, that acts as a form of union, that acts as a form of cohesion, that allows that vibration to hit those other objects, and by those objects they create resonance within the environment, and so your spell gets to manifest. But you can do that without speaking. You can do that, and you can pull energy through whatever intermediary it is that you're trying to do, so you don't have to worry about, oh my god, I didn't say the word right, or oh my god, I'm not going to say all that because that shit's too long. Like, you find the root words, and you can break it down, and you don't have to speak about it. It's the same way when you relax your mind when you're doing the scrying techniques, or when you're looking through the crystals, you can just relax the back of your mind and the energy flows. Right? And you want to be able to get yourself to that space when you're doing spellcraft. So you can just lay your hand over the energy, and then you will the intent of the energy to lift off, and then you throw it at whatever it is that you're going to be casting your spells for. So it just depends on where you're at in your practice. Depends on what you want to do with it. Depends on if you're working for a client, like if you're working for friends, if you're doing work for friends, like depending on what type of friend they are, depending on like if you're doing it in tandem with them, if you're doing it in secret for them, like it just depends on these different states of energy that you're trying to do. So you don't have to be attached to words. You don't have to be attached to objects. You don't have to be attached to any one particular thing. But the more understanding that you have in incorporating those separate elements to it, the more dense your magic becomes. The more dense your magic becomes, the deeper the connection to the singularity. And when the singularity is created, that is the density of information, the compression of information, and so the release when you've set it into motion. That allows for, in physics it's called entrainment. The greater energy pulls the lesser energy to it in order to make something manifest, or to make the line of flow. So when you practice charging your tools with a crystal and you project your consciousness through the crystal ball into the object behind it, and you get that laser focus, right? It's like when you're screwing around with that, you're bypassing your eyes and you're just using your third eye, right? Because it doesn't have the lens that inverts reality. So when you go left, the energy pushes right. When you go right, the energy pushes left. When you go pushing forward, it pulls backwards. Okay? So you're going to feel that in your work. You're going to understand that when you go to push something away from you, you're actually rolling the energy off the top of your head back behind you and through, creating a cycle that goes backwards. Whereas if you're going to draw something to you, you know, that the backwards pull something to you. If you're going to push something away, you project it forward. So it really is a screwy way to feel it, but you do feel the energy when you're doing these things. And using things like a crystal ball as a medium for that really does help in training yourself for practice. So that way you get better at remote viewing, you get better at astral projection, you get better at psychic projection. And, you know, that's a whole different ball of wax. Is the psychic projection is different from astral projection, whereas you're psychically looking with your mind's eye to see what the energy is around the environment, so you don't have to leave your body, right? But whereas the astral projection, that would be the best states to do that is right before you fall asleep, and you will yourself out of your body, just like fall out of your body because you don't want to be there anymore. So you get out of the environment. And that will allow you to walk into different planes, and you can start training for that by creating consciousness anchors or creating this understanding of continual repetition in charging tools and using your scrying techniques. So that way you get to understand that there's that space in the back of your head where you can interact with spirits. You're still conscious, but you're not fully conscious. There's another voice that you can listen to. There's the hidden mind that you can speak to. So anyway, I just wanted to pop on and help folks with, you know, scrying techniques, because again, why have massive balls if you don't talk about it, right? Anyway, have a great day.